Hi, so now we're ready to take our character and provide a new component that we're going to create ourselves using a C# script to move her around through space. So let's take a quick review of where we've been, and this will be the final part of this course. So what we're going to do is take a look here at our character, our sapper character here with uh, the root of the character, which has no graphics associated with it at all. We have our animator component, which we spent the first part of our Unity session on, where we laid out all of the flow of animations and linked them together using our transitions. But we also created these parameters, which are what we're going to use in our own script to communicate with this animator component. We also added a rigid body 2D and a circle collider, right? So two elements of the 2D physics engine that we will also use along with our animator to move our character around. So we're going to try and get the animator, the rigid body, and the collider to, and also the colliders that we placed on the ground to handle most of the movement of our character around the screen. And as I said all along, write as little code as we need to. So so what we're going to write is really just code that handles mainly the inputs. Like, so if we press left and right, our character moves left and right, and that triggers the animations that we've created. Um, so to talk about inputs though, before we just write some code, it's worth taking a look over here. If you go to Edit, Project Settings, and the first option over here is Input. And the idea behind the input manager in Unity is that you set up a kind of template with named uh, strings for your inputs. So the idea is that if you're making a game that's going to go on a mobile phone, and it's also going to go on a PC, and it's also going to appear on a console. Each of those have different ways of accessing player inputs, but all of them probably have some way that you would naturally describe as left and right. So the idea is that you drive your user input by talking about things like left and right. So what we're going to talk about in our own script is the axes controls, right? So we're going to have a horizontal axis. It's going to be it's actually here by default, and it's called horizontal, and it's mapped, as you can see here, to the left and right cursor keys on a keyboard, and also to the A and D keys on the keyboard as well. And um, it's got other pre-built settings for mouse and joysticks and things like that. Same here goes for vertical. And if you can scroll down through it, there's presets already for fire and jump and so on. You can create your own input uh, manager settings as well, right? So you can create your own axes too. Um, so we will use these in our own script. So I'm going to just create the script first of all, and block out the variables that we'll need to uh, to access the animator and the rigid body. So I'm going to go into a custom and scripts folder here, um, and our change speed behavior from animator is already there. I'm just going to right click here and create a new C# script, and I will call it Sapper controller. And if I double click on that, we should be able to see it in MonoDevelop. Okay, so in MonoDevelop, um, if you're not used to creating C# scripts in Unity, when you create one like that in your project view, Unity will uh, pre-populate it with a, uh, a class declaration and a start and an update method. So what we're going to do first of all is add in some variables here, right? So variables that that describe our components that our character already has. So this script will be applied to the character. So we're going to talk about the components that are on the character. So variables that describe our components. And so we have an animator, a rigid body 2D, and we need to access those from this script. So I'm going to create private variables for those. So private meaning that it's not going to expose these variables on the inspector, and we can only access them from within this script. So first we say private, then uppercase A for animator. So that's the type of component that we're looking for. It's an animator, and we'll call it my animator. And then we'll say the rigid body written much the same way, and it's a rigid body 2D. So you have to make sure that you don't accidentally pick the regular rigid body, which is for 3D physics. And we'll call it my RB, my rigid body. And we also want to access, just switch back to Unity for a second. We also want to be able to set the speed of our character walking. We have this parameter here called move speed. So we can create a variable for that, and that's a variable with a type of float. So it's a private float, and we'll call it my animator move speed. So that's going to be my animator will be the component, the animator component that's on a character, and my animator move speed will be that move speed parameter that's in the animator. So then when we go into our start method here, we're going to say right. So we have to get these components and set these variables to be those components. So first of all, I'm going to say my animator equals game object, which would be this object, the sapper root. This is where we're going to apply it. So it's game object dot get component, and we put the type that we're looking for in these arrow brackets here. So it's going to be an animator, and just open close parentheses. Then and we need to do the same for our rigid body. So my RB, and that's again game object dot get component, and make sure that it is rigid body 2D and not rigid body. Close the arrow bracket, open and close parentheses as well. And we need to as well get, we need to initialize this value here as well. So now that we've gotten our animator, we can say my animator move speed is equal to my animator. So so we're going to go into the animator component that we've just found, and go get float. And you can see here the code hinting gives us get bool. You can see there's get float, which is what we want, but there's also get int and get trigger in there as well. So so get the float, and these are strings, so we can just put in the name move speed, but it is case sensitive, and ending all the lines with semicolons as well there. So And I realized saying things like ending lines and semicolons is very basic instruction if you already know C sharp, but in case you don't, you need to do this at the end of every line. Um, so just going to save that there, Control S to save it, and in the next lesson we'll start getting into input controls for the character. So see you in the next lesson.